So I spent several hours with the Nintendo Switch over the course of a weekend. I'm super happy with it. I honestly believe that this is the best console that Nintendo has ever done. It is quite impressive. And it has its flaws, and you'll hear around, from other YouTube videos and review sites and things like that, you will hear about its flaws. The Joy-Cons, they are efficient, they're okay, they get the job done. Could they be better? Yes, they could be more ergonomic. There have also been a couple of little hiccups as far as the technology working properly on day one, which I'm not really concerned about that. I predict that Nintendo is going to release updates for these types of things, and all of that is going to be resolved relatively quickly. But aside from that, I consider the Switch absolutely primarily a handheld. So I've spent about 10 to 12 hours with the Nintendo Switch now, playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I played a little bit of the Snipperclips demo. I do plan to buy a lot more games. That's all the cash I had. Nintendo did not send me this for free once again. So, everything that I'm going to be reviewing here is purely out of my own pocket, and this is all brand new stuff and quite expensive. And indeed, the Switch is expensive, right? But so do I feel it's worth the money? Do I feel it's worth the $300 for the console and then the additional $60 that I spent on Zelda plus tax? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I've said pretty much from day one that this is a handheld, in my opinion. Nintendo refers to this as a handheld home console hybrid, but I don't really see the console that way in any way, shape, or form. In my mind, this is a handheld that can display on your TV. And it is an HD handheld, it's an extremely powerful handheld, but in my opinion, at the end of the day, still just a handheld. But it is a game-changing device, and it is one that nonetheless, even though in my opinion it does not concisely compete with Microsoft and Sony, or it doesn't exactly compete for them in the home console space, I still feel that Sony and Microsoft should be worried, and I think this does have the potential to sell extremely well. I think that if developers are not developing for this console, they're missing out on huge opportunities. So what was it like for the 10 to 12 hours that I played it over the course of a weekend? Well, it was fantastic. In fact, I don't even really feel like recording this right now. I'd rather just sit back down on the couch and go back to playing and play in handheld mode with the Joy-Cons on the side. Now, let me talk about the Joy-Cons for a minute. The Joy-Cons are okay. They get the job done. They're efficient. They work well, at least for the purposes of playing Zelda, and they worked fine for the Snipperclips demo. But people are correct to point out that there are no ergonomics. That is to say that the Joy-Cons are really just rectangles, and they fit in your hands, kind of, but they're not really designed to have a nice, comfortable grip because they're just kind of little blocks that are quite small, of course. And Nintendo has the opportunity to release fixes for that. They can release future versions of the Joy-Cons that are maybe bigger or have more ergonomic features, maybe are thicker and have more of a curvature on the back so that they fit into your grip a lot easier or a lot more comfortably. And we also have the opportunity for lots of accessories to come out to serve as a solution for those who find the Joy-Cons uncomfortable. And of course we have the actual Pro controller, right? But I think some people want the ergonomics of the Pro controller, but they want the attachment and the modularity abilities of the Joy-Con. So there's a lot of positives about the Joy-Con controller, and when I was holding it in the Joy-Con grip with both of the Joy-Cons inserted with the handles on there, many people say that that's small and they don't really like it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was great, and I found that it was easy for me to play Zelda in handheld mode with the controllers attached to the sides, with the Joy-Cons held separately in my hands, spaced apart even, and some people think that that's quite weird. I rather liked it, and I played really effectively that way. I don't think it hindered my gameplay in any way whatsoever. So from that standpoint, the Joy-Cons are an enormous win for Nintendo. I really think that this console is a game changer for so many reasons. And I don't think it's something that people can understand until they really get it into their hands. And I've heard that said as well. But now that I've actually held it in my hands, I can absolutely understand why. This is a console that you really need to experience for yourself to truly understand why it is kind of a stroke of genius from Nintendo. And another thing about it is that you can clearly see from so many of these features, from the fact that you're playing with kind of this tablet controller, and the fact that it has the dock and hooking up to the TV aspect, all these different elements to it, the motion controls, you can really see that this is the coming together of so many good parts of the Wii and the Wii U, and finally getting the beginnings of a very, very strong, cohesive product. I think that the next iteration of this idea is probably going to be absolute gold. I mean, this is really, really fantastic in and of itself, but it has room for improvement. I found that the dock in particular feels a little fragile. Placing the Switch console down, it does feel a little like worrisome. Like I'm worried about scratching the screen, or I'm worried about some of these other problems I've heard about. I'm worried that I'm gonna jolt it around too much inside the dock and it's gonna, I don't know. I'm really paranoid about it. It's really expensive, and yet the dock does not feel like it's a solid structure. And so again, for me, that just further reinforces that this is a handheld. But again, this is a game-changing console from Nintendo, because it takes something that you just cannot get anywhere else. It is a totally unique experience, and it is definitely a distinct way to play games, the way that Nintendo always seeks to accomplish. And honestly, after experiencing this thing, I almost just, part of me just says, I never want to touch another mobile game, another phone game ever again, because this thing, you hold it in your hands and you have the ability to take it outside, take it on the road. You know, if you're on a flight, if you're on a road trip, or even just at work, on your lunch break, anything like that, this is something that I guarantee that you will love it. It's an experience that will entertain you in a way that other devices just cannot do. You can't get this on a phone, a laptop. You definitely can't get this on any other handheld, because handhelds are so ridiculously underpowered. People like to say this is underpowered, but honestly, as a handheld, this thing is a monster. And seeing Zelda run at a nice crisp frame rate on this, you know, granted, there are aspects about Zelda that maybe cause the frame rate to drop occasionally and things like that, and that happens whether it's on the Wii U or the Switch. That's kind of a software thing, but when it runs well, and you see what this is capable of, it is impressive. And I just want to stress that people are talking about how, oh, well, we're not going to get to see Doom or Crysis or whatever on this new console, but even if that's the case, or even if we only get kind of toned down versions of those major AAA games, it is really, really impressive. And again, you just need to experience it for yourself. I think that if third parties abandon this console the way that people are worried about, I think the consumer loses, I think all of those third parties lose, I think Nintendo loses, and I think it just sucks all around. So I really hope that doesn't happen. I realize that it still might. This is just fantastic, man. It is so good, and it's so long overdue from Nintendo to come out with an effort like this. I really hope that developers take advantage of this. I really hope that they understand what kind of opportunity exists here, because this is massive. If I was the CEO of a major publishing company, I would be looking at this thing. I would get this thing in my hands and say to myself, man, we need to at least try to do at least a handful of things for this device, because it's so fantastic. And the fact that it even has this touchscreen means that you're going to be able to bring all kinds of mobile games and stuff to this if you really want to. I don't think that there's any danger in terms of developer support as long as Nintendo kind of is willing to open the gates after a short time. I think that for the first part of this launch, they're going to be really careful with the kind of games that they're putting forward for the console. But over time, I imagine they're going to open the gates, and then we're going to get a flood of stuff, especially if the opening sales are really, really high. And from what we've heard reported from GameStop, they are indeed. In fact, GameStop has come out this past week and said that this is the strongest console launch in the past several years. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you want to see more here on DigiCades about the Nintendo Switch, whether it's Jacob saying that he's not going to buy one on launch or he has problems with it, or whether it's me and I'm super enthusiastic about it, you know what to do. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment below and let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's actually how I take a sip of coffee every time.